Your podcast and welcome. Nathan Abrams here with from all the way from Wales, England, and he's a professor at Bangor University. And thank you for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
So I wanted to talk today about this amazing book that you wrote, co-authored, and would like to know first how you met up with Robert and how this all started.
Oof. I'll tell you my journey to get into that book, and then I'll tell you how
That'd
I
be
met
great.
Robert
Oh,
along
that'd
the
be
way.
great.
Okay, so I've seen two Kubrick films in the cinema. Full Metal Jacket in 1987 when I was 15. I probably wasn't really even aware it was a Kubrick film. And then Eyes Wide Shut in 1999, which I was aware was a Kubrick film. I deliberately did go to see. And so I already had this interest. I was asked to teach a new course at Bangor University when I arrived here in 2006. And I thought, I want to teach a director. We don't tend to teach directors in film studies. I thought that would be interesting. And I liked Kubrick. And the beauty of teaching Kubrick is he covers every genre, apart from the one I don't like, which is Westerns. And he never made a Western, unfortunately, so I never have to teach one. And then back then, there were 12 films that you could watch, and that fit nicely into an 11-week semester. Now there are 13 films, obviously, because Fear and Desire. Fear and Desire wasn't easily accessible back then. I mean, it was, but
Right.
not. You had to watch bad bootleg copies. So Kubrick fits nicely. I began teaching him in 2007. About 45 years of teaching him. I thought, what could I possibly say that's new about one of the most written about directors ever? And I found my way in, which was three things that I would call ethics, ethnicity, and archives.
Oh, okay.
So the archive opened in 2007. So this gave us an opportunity to look at Kubrick's working practices and the vast documentation that came with that. I wanted to look at him as an intellectual, and specifically a New York Jewish intellectual. So that covered ethics and ethnicity. I wanted to examine him in his background and then put him in that intellectual culture and milieu in New York. But he was clearly related to and relating to. And so that led to a bunch of publications. I got on with the archive people. I published my first book on Kubrick in 2018, Stanley Kubrick,
Okay.
New York Jewish Intellectual. And through that process, I think my first Kubrick conference would have been 2016 in Leicester. And that's where I met Bob Kolker, who I'd started talking to. 2017, we met again. I invited him to Bangor. We had a conference on New Hollywood, New Wave to mark the anniversary of the end of the studio system and beginning of New Hollywood. And he came to Bangor in 2017. In 2018, I published, as I said, my first book, Stanley Kubrick, New York Jewish Intellectual. And whilst I was finishing that book, Bob approached me with a proposal to do a book on Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, okay.
Which we began working on. And in 2019, to coincide with the 20th anniversary of the film, we published Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick in the making of his final film.
Right.
Bob had long been wanting to do a biography. And we teamed up and pitched a proposal, and we got the contract to work on that, which we did, and we delivered the manuscript in 2022.
Okay.
That took about a year of post-production, and it was published earlier this year.
Man, that's very detailed. There's so much in it. I mean, what a career. I mean, you never knew what he was going to do next. I mean, from his amazing sci-fi movie 2001 to The Shining, it's amazing horror movie. What movie did you especially like from Kubrick? Was there any in particular that you enjoyed, or was it all of them, the whole package of movies?
Well, I like them all. I mean, I have my
Right.
least favorites and my favorites. The one when I get asked which is my favorite is Dr. Strangelove.
Oh yeah, that's really intense.
Because I like the humor, the physical comedy.
And I went down his films here. I guess he had the first real was 1957, Path and Glory. That was a start, I guess. He had earlier movies, but did they catch on as much? I think Path and Glory wasn't it his first really successful kind of movie, or that he was going forward?
Yeah, that's correct. So he made Fear and Desire in '53. That got a very mixed reception. In one account, he left the cinema in tears. Then he made Killer's Kiss, '55. And he wasn't really proud of those first two efforts. He tried to actually get rid of every negative of Fear and Desire, which is one of the reasons why, when I first started teaching him, it wasn't really available, because they hadn't found the copy to restore by that point. And then when he teamed up with James B. Harris to make The Killing, that really got him noticed.
Okay.
And that got him noticed. But it wasn't until '57, when Paths of Glory, that he got real critical acclaim, and actually, I think, made some money. Not much, but his first film to turn a profit. So yeah, '57. He didn't get to make another film for 2 years, until Kirk Douglas came along and rescued him and asked him to helm Spartacus. And it's really Spartacus that made his career.
Oh yeah, that's an intense movie.
Whatever anyone thinks, some people don't think it's a Kubrick movie, but without Spartacus, the Stanley Kubrick we know and love, or don't love,
Kurt
today
was amazing in that. I mean, it was really the scenes, and so much to detail, and I've noticed so many takes that it would really something how many takes he would have these actors go through to get the scene right. He was just such a master at that. And then then 2001, that was just such a breakthrough movie.
And I mean, just to go through his career. So he had Spartacus,
sure.
and Spartacus. Yeah, Spartacus made his name. He showed he could helm a big budget Hollywood studio with big name star actors, and actually, it developed Kubrick's taste for classically trained British theatre actors like Laurence Olivier, Charles Loughton, and Peter Ustinov. It also showed him how much he hated Hollywood and how he didn't want to work for Hollywood. So thereafter, he moves to the UK to make Lolita. And although he goes back and forth to the States, he makes every other film in the UK, because the production facilities here are as good as anywhere else. The creative personnel are as good. And apart from a few big name principals, all the other actors are British, because he prefers them, because they know their lines. So he makes Lolita here. Doctor Strangelove. I think Doctor Strangelove is a film that really, lifts Kubrick into a different realm.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
a very different type of film, Doctor Strangelove, for the early '60s, or at least by the mid '60s when it comes out. And then James Harris leaves him during the making of Doctor Strangelove, and then he embarks on 2001: A Space Odyssey. And yeah, I mean, in the sort of pantheon of Kubrick films, that's routinely cited as the best. It's routinely cited as one of the best science fictions, and what anyone ever thinks of it, without 2001, you think how many films have been touched in its wake.
Absolutely.
It's very hard to watch. We were just watching Terminator in Bangor University. We had a conference to celebrate its 40th anniversary, and you think of the red eyes of the Terminator.
So right, that's true. And now you're talking about AI now, and that was way ahead of its time back in 1968. Nobody was talking about a computer controlling everything, controlling a fate of a human being there in that capsule. So that was ahead of its time.
Yeah. I mean, ahead of its time in so many ways. Visually, it's a new wave movie, and visually impressive. So many of the effects that he had to devise. The music for the film, using found music, pre-existing music, to score a space movie, again, unheard of in a way. And then just what it's about. It's about the big questions, and I don't think it's dated, and I don't think the questions it seeks to answer or address have dated either. So it was that whole combination. It's like a total package.
And also, Kubrick didn't fly. I read that he only once to Spain, and then he didn't fly anymore. He hated flying.
Yeah, he had a pilot's license, and
okay.
He made that documentary Flying Padre back in the early '50s, and he could fly a plane, and he just chose not to. And the last flight he took was on the way back from Spain in '59.
Right, I read. That was very interesting. Now, you ever heard about the controversy that he did the moon landing, a fake moon landing, seen. I don't know if it's true or not, but there was
Well,
rumors to that.
the definitive answer on that is that Kubrick was asked to fake the Kubrick was asked to fake the moon landings, and being a perfectionist, he shot it
Hmm.
on location.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was always wondering about that because there's things fly around the internet, and you don't know what to believe these days with some of these things.
Hmm.
And now another interesting movie, A Clockwork Orange, Roddy McDowall. Wow, what an amazing performance.
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell, sorry,
You're
but
confusing him with Planet of
I
the Apes.
know you could
Another
easily
film
get
I
that.
love.
Oh, that's a great film.
Hmm.
But some of the things he had to go through with his eyelashes and oh my gosh, got that cornea in his eye. He had to go through a lot to make that.
Yeah, Kubrick's films were physically demanding on crew, creatives, and actors alike, and more than one actor has reported physical or emotional kind of injuries. So Malcolm McDowell, one of the stuntmen in 2001, and famously Shelley Duvall in The Shining. So yeah, Malcolm McDowell was put through the ringer to make that movie.
Where did you get the idea for that movie? I mean, it was such a strange movie.
A Clockwork Orange, where he read the book and he thought it was after 2001 when he didn't get to make Napoleon. So he thought, well, I can adapt this. He just signed a new contract with Warner Brothers, and he wanted to impress them. And
Oh, okay.
he knew he could make it quickly and on the cheap. So he adapted it himself. Didn't have to pay a screenwriter. He then made it for $2 million, which relatively cheap speaking. And he did it quickly for him. That came out by 71. He finished
Right,
2001 in 68. So it's not Spielberg quick, but it's Kubrick quick.
right.
And
And
there
then,
was a lot of themes in the novel that appealed to him.
oh, okay. So then we wait another 4 years, and he does probably one of my favorite Kubrick movies, Barry Lyndon. I mean, just the photography and the filming in that is just so beautiful. It's a
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's two things about Kubrick that I always say that I think why he's a remarkable director. One, he's technically innovative. So the NASA lens that he grafts onto a camera for 2001.
right.
So in Barry Lyndon, so he can shoot in natural light or in the kind of light of the era, like all those candles he had specially made for the indoor scenes and the nighttime scenes. The second thing is that his films contain ideas because he did legendary amounts of pre-production research, so he wanted to know everything. And he didn't just read about the subject, he read around the subject. So you end up with movies that not only just are very technically adept, that sound great, but have loads of ideas. Every time you watch them, something new is revealed.
That's true.
It's more than just the surface.
And then all the candlelight in that, depicted how really was going, how things were back then. And then I love that duel. That was really just brilliant how he figured that out, how that was done back then, and he actually was well done. Just the cinematic beauty of that movie is, I mean, you see a lot after that was done after that, those kind of period movies. So after that, he waited like another 5 years to do this horror movie, The Shining. Can you explain a little bit about that movie?
Yeah, just to correct one thing, Kubrick wasn't waiting between his movies.
Oh, he wasn't. Okay.
No, there's a reason for the gaps. The
Okay.
gaps aren't because he's not doing anything. The gaps is because he hasn't found a story he's fell in love with. That's how he described it.
Oh, okay.
You had to find a story you had to
Interesting.
fall in love with. What we hope to show in the biography is in between the films. So those 2 years between Paths of Glory and Spartacus, 57 to 59, he's trying a whole bunch of projects, just none of them get off the ground. Right, then he's already working on Lolita at the same time as he's making Spartacus, and he makes Lolita. Then he's trying other projects that don't get off the ground. Then he makes Doctor Strangelove. Then he's making 2001. Whilst he's making 2001, he's considering Napoleon.
Oh, that's right. I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, straight after that, Napoleon doesn't get off the ground, but he's also considering Schnitzler's Traumnovelle. That doesn't go anywhere. So he makes Clockwork Orange. Then, he's probably turning back to Napoleon and Traumnovelle. But they don't happen, so he sinks those kinds of disappointed energies into Barry Lyndon. 75, he makes Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon flops,
Hmm.
so he's searching around for his next movie. And,
Okay.
it's around about the 60s. I'm trying to think of the exact date when he discovers Super Toys Last All Summer Long. So he's working on that. I know he's working on that through the 70s because he's impressed by Star Wars, which is 77.
Oh, okay.
And he wants to make that kind of movie. So that's not happening it's not working out for him in the mid to late 70s. So he sinks his energies into Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon takes a while to make. He's made Barry Lyndon. He sinks his energies now into this. Again, he's looking at Telenovela. He's also looking at Super Toys Last All Summer Long in the mid to late 70s. They don't come off. 77, he gets galley proofs of The Shining. He said he always wanted to make the scariest horror movie ever, and he realized with The Shining that was the film he could make. So he's working on that from 77 through to 80. So that's how that comes about.
So he always had a movie. He was always working on something while he was shooting a movie.
There's never a point in which Kubrick isn't working on a movie. Whether that movie gets made is a different question, right? He's always making a movie. Whether that movie gets made, that's another point. And if he's not working on a movie, he's looking for the inspiration for his next movie. So he's not waiting. I mean, he is waiting in the sense is he's working till the idea strikes him.
I wonder what he would do now with all the tools that are available with with cinematography now. I mean, it's with all this AI, and then you also have all these amazing scenes now you're able to create. You think he would fit in with this whole new genre of such advanced video?
Well, he'd know how to use it to his best advantage.
Right.
So, he wouldn't be enslaved by it. He'd know, like you see with any new technology, the Steadicam. He didn't invent the Steadicam, but arguably he innovated how it could be used in a movie.
Of course.
Right. So that might be the same with AI. I mean, one of the things that stymied him for making AI, artificial intelligence, is he wanted a human actor for the main robot because the CGI wasn't good enough.
Oh, okay.
But he knew if he used a human actor, that a boy would visibly age, given how long it took Kubrick to shoot a movie. So he was stymied. That's one of the reasons why he didn't make AI, is he couldn't square his working process with using a real child actor.
How about that?
And also, child labour laws in the UK are quite strict, so he wouldn't have been able to use him as much. So yeah, I mean, I would have been interested to see, given that Kubrick didn't like to travel very far from his house, how he might have used green screen technologies to mock up environments.
Right.
In a sense, he already did it in 2001 with the Dawn of Man sequence, and he used it again with second unit footage that was shot with Tom Cruise walking on a treadmill for Eyes Wide Shut. I think I'm sure he would have been intrigued to incorporate its possibilities because he loved technology, he loved gadgets.
I'm sure.
But I think he would have been insistent that it looked right first, before he agreed to its use. I mean, with all the stuff that was developed for The Hobbit and for Lord of the Rings, and motion capture and all this, it would have been really intriguing. But I don't think he would have let it be subservient to the story, to the plot, to the characters, which sometimes that's often the case with a lot of these films. You're just watching the effects, but it's not really telling you anything.
Right. Now, he did Full Metal Jacket after The Shining, so that was a very intense opening scene.
So again, we got a 7-year gap between The Shining and Full Metal Jacket. And it's not that Kubrick isn't doing anything. He's trying AI, he's trying telenovela, he's thinking about a film about the Holocaust, and eventually he lights on a film around about 83, 84 on Vietnam. And yeah, that is an intense opening scene. And I spoke to Tim Colteri last week. He was the guy who's the door gunner, get some. He was the original drill instructor, but Lee Ermey took the role from him. But when I spoke to Tim, he could do a pitch perfect impression of that sequence because he knew all the words. So yeah, these are like words that Kubrick wanted his drill instructor to say, and kind of in part based on real drill instructors and in part kind of improvised.
How long did it take? I wonder how many takes it took to do that correctly, because that was so well done. Every word, every intensity. It was probably one of the most intense scenes in movie history as far as the way a military scene like that with an officer. It was really intense.
Yeah, I mean, bear in mind both Leo May and Tim Colchieri had been Marine instructors, so they knew what they were doing. It was probably second
Oh
nature
yeah,
to
I'm
them.
sure.
How much of it, it's a good question. How much was scripted and how much came out of the improvisation? I mean, with Kubrick, it didn't matter what the script said. If you improvised something and it was better, he used it. My favorite bit of improvisation, and I'm going to swear now, which I hope is acceptable, but it's a line from the movie, is I bet you're the kind of guy that would fuck another guy in the ass and not have the common courtesy to give him a reach around, a goddamn reach around. And Kubrick said, greatly, what does it mean? And he's like, Stanley, use your imagination.
There you go. That was Kubrick. And then the last movie he did was Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman. That was a really interesting movie.
Yeah, I mean, we argue in the book and in our 2019 book, Eyes Wide Shut, that he'd been wanting to work on that film since the moment he began making feature films, fiction films, so since the early 50s. And clearly it really appealed to him, and he put a lot of energy and effort into making a film when he was unwell. So there's an argument to be made that movie possibly killed him.
Right, that's another thing I was going to ask you with that whole scene, the whole Freemason scene with that ritual with the masks, and that was pretty creepy, but it worked. And
Sorry, I mean, I think it's one of the best sequences in cinema.
Oh, I believe that. And they picked the perfect actor, Tom Cruise, for that, and Nicole Kidman. The scenes were just typical Kubrick, nothing short of spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, although that film got panned at the time of its release in the UK and the United States, and still many people, it's the anniversary today. It was released in the United States, and it didn't get a good reception. Got better reception in Southern Europe and in Japan, in Latin countries, but not in the UK and the United States. So, the jury stood out on that one.
Right. Well, you never get tired of his movies. There's always something to see that you missed, or that's the thing about his films. They never tire. There's always something beautiful to see or intense of his movies. So, what are you working on? Are you working on any new projects now, as far as any books or anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah. I've edited a collection with a professor in the States called Kubrick's Mittel Europa, the Central European Imaginary in the work of Stanley Kubrick. So that's an edited collection, but I've written a long piece on Aryan papers, which updates what was in the book.
Okay.
I've edited a book on Blade Runner, which hopefully will come out.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Probably next year. I've written an essay on Blade Runner. I've pitched for a collection on Paul Verhoeven as well as The Terminator.
Oh, okay.
Just celebrated, so we'll see what happens there. So that's it at the moment. For next projects that I'm working on. So that should take me into next year. As for my next big book, I'm not 100% sure.
And how can we reach you? Where can we reach you at? Is there if you want to send me back information on the websites that I want to put in the description where we can reach you, get your books. Books is readily available, right, on most major booksellers around the globe?
Yeah, around the globe, yeah. It's we've got a UK publisher and a US publisher, so you should be able to find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy your books in the States. Hopefully it's in bookstores. Friends send me pictures of the book in bookstores around the world. So the latest one is in Australia. I'm on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. If you just Google my name, Bangor University, my uni website and email address comes up. So I'm pretty easy to reach.
Okay. And I actually found your book at the library.